Owen Zeller didn't expect to be holding a stranger's designer purse in the middle of a crowded concert arena, especially not while trying to stop his 6-year-old son from climbing the barricade and getting them kicked out. "Dad," she dropped her bag. Sammy pointed, his blue eyes wide as he tugged at Owen's threadbare hoodie sleeve. Owen turned just in time to see a small, blush-pink purse tumble from a woman's shoulder as she was swept forward by the crowd. She didn't notice. The place was chaos screams, flashing lights, and bass so loud it shook the floor. "Stay here," Owen said quickly, crouching to grab the purse and pressing it tight to his chest. He pushed forward, trying to spot the woman. She was maybe 30 feet away, head turning frantically, mouthing something Owen couldn't hear. He raised the purse high above the crowd and yelled, "Hey, you dropped this." She spun toward him, her eyes locking on the bag, and relief washed over her face. She was stunning long brown hair tied up in a messy ponytail, oversized sunglasses halfway down her nose, and a soft white tee tucked into designer jeans. But it was her expression that threw him. She looked grateful, not like the type of woman who'd be annoyed a stranger touched her bag. She reached him fast, breathless. "Oh my God, thank you. I didn't even notice I would have lost everything." "No problem," Owen said, handing it over. "You okay?" She nodded, still catching her breath. "Yeah, thank you, seriously. That bag has my phone, ID, passport, everything." "Happy to help," he said, backing away, but she grabbed his elbow. "Wait, that's your son." Owen looked over his shoulder. Sammy was now dancing to the beat, completely unaware of how close they were to being trampled. "Yes, he made me notice your bag." She smiled at Sammy, then looked back at Owen. "You guys here alone?" "Yeah, a birthday surprise. He loves this band," Owen added, already regretting how that sounded. He didn't want pity. Truth was, it had taken 3 weeks of overtime and pawning his watch to buy those tickets. "I'm Joel," she said, offering her hand. "Owen, and that's Sammy." "Hi, Sammy," she called to him. "Hi," he yelled back, grinning. Joel's eyes flicked back to Owen's. "Listen, I have VIP access. It's less crowded and the view's amazing. You should join me." His brows shot up. "You don't even know us." She shrugged playfully. "You just saved my life, or at least my bag. That earns you a VIP upgrade." Owen hesitated. It felt weird. But then Sammy ran over, tugged his hand, and said, "Can we, Dad, please?" Owen looked at Joel. She smiled, warm and open. "Lead the way," he said. The VIP area was like stepping into another world. Plush seating, open bar, waitstaff, real bathrooms, and the view perched above the crowd, front and center. "Whoa," Sammy whispered, eyes wide as he took it all in. Joel laughed. "I know, right? First time I saw it, couldn't believe it either." "You come to concerts a lot?" Owen asked, watching her sip a drink that probably cost more than his monthly groceries. "Sometimes," she said vaguely, "when I'm in town." He noticed she didn't say where she was from, but he didn't push. Sammy was too busy dancing to care. He'd made fast friends with the staff, who brought him a strawberry mocktail with a mini umbrella. Owen finally relaxed, sinking into a leather couch beside Joel. He glanced at her. "Thanks for this, really, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said, then leaned in slightly. "You seemed like a good guy." He chuckled. "You got all that from me holding a purse." "No, from how you looked at your son." He blinked at that. "Oh." Joel tilted her head. "You're a single dad." "Yeah, Sammy's mom left when he was a baby. Said she wasn't cut out for it. Been me and him ever since." Her expression softened. "That's incredible, you're doing great." He shrugged. "Some days better than others." She smiled again, but it was different this time. Gentler. They watched the rest of the concert side by side. occasionally exchanging glances or small comments. Her laugh was easy, low, and warm. And even though Owen kept telling himself this was just a moment, a fluke, he couldn't help feeling like it was something more. After the last song ended and fireworks lit up the sky, Joelle turned to him. "Can I treat you both to dinner?" she asked. Owen blinked. "You've already done too much." "Let me do this," she said. "There's a place nearby I think you'll love. They have the best burgers in the city. Sammy will be obsessed." Before he could answer, Sammy jumped in. "Burgers, yes." Owen looked at Joelle. "You're hard to say no to." She smiled. "I get that a lot." The restaurant was upscale but cozy, dim lighting, leather booths, the kind of place Owen would never think to step foot in. Joelle was clearly known here. The hostess greeted her by name and led them to a private booth. "This place is, wow," Owen muttered. Joelle grinned. "Told you." Sammy devoured a plate of sliders while Joelle and Owen talked. She was easy to talk to, funny, curious, and even though she kept details about her life vague, he didn't mind. It felt like she was just present with them. "Can I ask you something?" Owen said after a while. "Sure." "Why'd you help us tonight?" She paused. "Because you helped me, and because it's rare to meet someone who isn't trying to impress me." He raised an eyebrow. "Why would anyone need to impress you?" Her eyes danced. "You'd be surprised." His wallet buzzed a little when the check came. He reached for it instinctively, but Joelle stopped him with a hand on his. "Don't," she said softly. "Let me." Owen looked at her, really looked. And for the first time all night, something shifted, something unspoken but tangible. He nodded. Outside, the air was warm. Sammy was asleep in Owen's arms, his head resting on his dad's shoulder. Joelle walked beside them slowly. "I'm glad I met you tonight." "Same," Owen said. She stopped walking. Owen did too. "I'll be honest," she said, voice quieter. "I wasn't planning to talk to anyone tonight. I came here trying to forget someone." Owen met her eyes. "Did it work?" She smiled. "Yeah, I think it did." They stood there for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a slim card, and pressed it into his hand. "Call me." He looked down. There was no name, just a phone number embossed in gold. By the time he looked up, she was walking away, her silhouette lit by the streetlights. Owen stood there, heart thudding. He had no idea who she really was or why she'd picked him out of a crowd. But somehow, he knew this wasn't the end of it. Not even close. Owen didn't call the number for 3 days. He'd stared at the card too many times to count, his thumb brushing the smooth gold lettering like it might offer answers. But every time he came close to dialing, he stopped. Women like her didn't give guys like him real numbers, and even if she had. What then? A second burger night? A polite thank you for saving my purse coffee. It didn't make sense. But none of it had, really, not the VIP box, not the dinner, not the way she'd looked at him like she saw something worth staying for. On the 4th day, he folded the card into his wallet, told himself to forget it, and focused on getting Sammy ready for school. "Do you think she was famous?" Sammy asked suddenly as they waited for the light to change at the corner of Montrose and Ashland. "Who?" Owen asked, though he already knew. "The pretty lady from the concert. She had movie star hair." Owen exhaled a dry laugh. What does that even mean? It means her hair looked expensive. He glanced down at his son, who was kicking at a loose stone on the sidewalk. "Where do you learn words like that?" "Ben's mom says it on her makeup videos." "Well, even if she was famous," Owen said, nudging Sammy forward as the light changed, "people like that don't hang out with us more than once." Sammy didn't say anything. He just gave his dad a look that was far too knowing for a 6-year-old. Owen dropped him off at school, then headed to the garage. The morning was already humid, and the shop's air conditioning had been broken since February, which meant by noon his shirt would be plastered to his back and his hands black with oil. But there was something about the rhythm of engines and the smell of grease that helped him think. He was under a dented Chrysler, tightening a rusted bolt, when the shouting started. "Zeller, you've got a visitor." Owen slid out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag as he stood. "Can it wait? I'm elbow deep in." But then he saw who was standing in the garage-wide bay doorway. Joelle. Not in sunglasses, not in jeans. In a soft blue dress that hit just above her knees, with a lightweight scarf tied loosely at her neck, and sandals that probably cost more than his rent. Owen's heart stopped. "Hey," she said, stepping inside like she didn't notice the grease, the noise, or the 3 mechanics staring at her like she was a mirage. He blinked. "What are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood." He raised both eyebrows. She gave a small shrug. "Okay, fine. I wasn't. Had to ask someone at the concert venue where you might work. Luckily, you mentioned something about replacing brake pads until I die the other night." He had said that, in a moment of self-deprecating honesty, he now regretted. Joel glanced around. "Is there somewhere we can talk? Maybe not next to a half-dismantled muffler." Still stunned, Owen led her around the side of the garage to the alley, where the staff took smoke breaks. The air smelled like motor oil and rain-soaked cement. She didn't seem to mind. "Sorry for just showing up," she said, leaning against the brick wall. "I wasn't expecting to see you again." "I figured." He crossed his arms, unsure what to do with his hands now that they weren't holding a wrench. "Why are you really here?" "I wanted to see you." He blinked. "Why?" She gave him a look. "You're going to make me say it, aren't you?" He didn't answer. Joel sighed. "Because I liked you, and I wasn't pretending. You didn't ask what I do or what car I drive or if I've been on TV. You just talked to me like a person. That doesn't happen a lot in my world." He frowned. "What is your world?" Her expression shifted. "You really don't know, do you?" "I know you're not exactly regular. That much was obvious." She studied him for a moment, then pulled out her phone, not to text, just to open something. She turned the screen toward him. On it was a picture of her same eyes, same smile on the cover of a glossy magazine. The headline read, "Joel Devereaux, billion-dollar heiress or business genius." Owen stared. "You're Joel Devereaux." "Guilty." Every part of him wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was ridiculous. The Joel Devereaux. The one who owned that luxury skincare line with commercials that played between cartoons. The one with a jet named after her dog. The one who was currently standing in his alley. He looked up at her. "Why didn't you just say that?" "Because I've had people ask what brand of water I drink before they even ask my name. Just wanted one night without that." He stepped back, not sure if he felt angry or just foolish. So what was that night? Some kind of billionaire charity act? Take a struggling dad to dinner? "No," she said quickly. "God, no. I didn't even know you were struggling until you told me, and I didn't care." "You didn't care?" he echoed, not hiding the edge in his voice. "You think we live in the same universe." "No," she said, "but I think we both understand what it means to be alone." That stopped him cold. She stepped closer. "I've had people around me my whole life, but no one who really saw me, and then I met you. You didn't flinch when I said I was trying to forget someone. You listened. You saw me." He didn't know what to say to that. Joel took a breath. "I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to see you again, and maybe ask if you'd let me take you and Sammy out this weekend. somewhere fun. He hesitated, like what, a yacht? She laughed, no, like the zoo or a science museum, something with dinosaurs. He looked at her, really looked, and for once didn't feel like she was playing some game. Sammy would love that, he said slowly, but only if I get to pay for the hot dogs. She tilted her head. Deal, but only if I get to buy the ice cream. He cracked a smile. Fine, but nothing with gold flakes in it. Joel grinned, you're no fun. He rubbed the back of his neck. You really came all the way here just to ask me that. She nodded. Okay, he said, then yeah, let's go see some dinosaurs. She leaned in and kissed his cheek, fast and warm, then turned to leave. Owen watched her walk away, still holding the rag he'd forgotten to drop. He didn't know what he'd just agreed to, but whatever it was, it felt like the beginning of something that didn't fit into any box he'd known before. And this time, he wasn't going to let it walk away. Saturday morning came with the scent of rain and the sound of Sammy running through the apartment barefoot, yelling about dinosaurs and waffles in the same breath. Owen had barely finished lacing his boots when his son skidded to a stop in the hallway, eyes wide and hair sticking up in every direction. Are we still going? He asked, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Yeah, we're still going, Owen said, grabbing his keys. But first, Socks, you're not terrorizing a museum with bare feet. Sammy sprinted off, and Owen exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. He'd barely slept the night before. Joel had sent a car. Not just any car, a black SUV with tinted windows and a driver who wore a suit and addressed him as Mr. Zeller. Owen had tried to wave him off, but the man had simply said, MS. Devereaux insists, and opened the back door with white-gloved hands. The ride to the museum was quiet at first, the city sliding past in a blur of gray and green. Sammy made up names for the buildings, and Owen stared out the window, wondering what kind of woman arranged transportation for a guy she'd met once and tracked down at a garage. When they arrived, Joel was already waiting near the entrance. She wore a soft cream coat belted at the waist and a pair of tall boots. Her hair was swept into a high ponytail, and she looked like she belonged on the cover of some travel magazine, not waiting outside a dinosaur exhibit on a damp Saturday morning. Hey, she said, smiling when she saw them. Hi, Sammy shouted, running to her. Joel crouched and opened her arms as he barreled into her, ready to see some fossils. Are they real bones or just pretend ones? Only the best kind, real and bigger than your apartment. Owen watched them, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. You didn't have to get the car. Joel stood, brushing her hands off. I know, but I didn't want to be late. He said nothing, but she seemed to read his hesitation like a second language. I booked a guided tour, she added, slipping her hands into her coat. Figured we'd get more out of it that way. Sammy tugged Owen's sleeve. Dad, did you know some dinosaurs had feathers? I do now. The museum was nearly empty, the perks of a private tour becoming clear as a woman with a headset greeted Joel with a warm, good morning, MS. Devereaux, and ushered them inside. Sammy was enraptured. Every fossil, every giant skeleton made his eyes light up like he'd discovered treasure. Owen tried to focus on the exhibits, but he kept glancing at Joel. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't checking her phone or acting board. She leaned down when Sammy asked questions, pointed out small details he might have missed, laughed when he tried to imitate a T-Rex. At one point, as they stood beneath a towering skeleton, Owen leaned toward her. You're good with him. She looked at him sideways. I like kids. You don't have any. No, she said a little too quickly. Wasn't in the cards. He didn't press. Instead, they followed Sammy to the next exhibit, where he was insisting a giant claw belonged to a dragon. After the tour ended, they had lunch at a small bistro tucked behind the museum, one Joel seemed to know well. The staff greeted her with familiarity, and they were led to a table on the enclosed patio, heaters glowing softly around them. Sammy dug into his grilled cheese with enthusiasm, and Owen leaned back in his chair, watching Joel stir her tea. "You do this with a lot of people you meet at concerts?" he asked, voice low. She didn't look up. "No, just one." He tapped the table. "I'm still trying to figure out what you're getting out of this." She finally met his eyes. "Does it have to be a transaction?" "In my world, it usually is." "Well, you're in mine now," she said, setting her cup down. "And in mine, people don't have to earn kindness." He looked away, out at the street just beyond the glass. "That's not how I was raised." "Then maybe it's time for something different." The silence stretched between them. Sammy kicked his legs under the table, humming to himself. "You didn't ask about my job," Owen said suddenly. Joel blinked. "Do you want me to?" "No, but I figured you might be curious." "I already know what you do." He frowned. "How?" "I asked around." He laughed once, dry and surprised. "You had someone look into me." "I wanted to make sure you weren't secretly a con artist or a married man with a second family." He shook his head. "You're something else." "You say that like it's a bad thing." "No," he said after a moment, "it's not." After lunch, they walked through the park behind the museum. Sammy ran ahead, chasing pigeons and swinging from every low tree branch. The clouds were beginning to part, sunlight slipping through in thin beams. Joel slowed her pace, tucking her hands into her coat. "You're not what I expected." Owen glanced at her. "What did you expect?" "Someone bitter, angry, maybe a little defeated." "You wouldn't be wronged. But you're also kind, protective, loyal. I don't meet many people like that." He stopped walking. "Joel, I don't have much to offer. Rent a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat and drive a car that backfires twice before it starts. I fix brakes for a living. You have a driver and a skincare empire." She turned toward him. "And you're the only person who looked me in the eye last week and didn't ask what yacht I was on." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know how this works." "Neither do I," she said quietly, "but I want to try." He looked at her, really looked, and for once, didn't feel the weight of everything he couldn't give. Just the possibility of something that didn't need fixing. Sammy came barreling back toward them, twigs in his hair and dirt on his knees. "Found a pine cone." "Great," Owen said, scooping him up with a grunt. "You can show it to Joel's driver." "No need," Joel said. "I canceled him." Owen blinked. "You what?" She smiled. "I thought maybe we could take the bus. You know, live a little dangerously." He laughed, shaking his head. "You're going to regret that." "I already don't." As they headed toward the nearest stop, Sammy chattering between them, Owen reached out and took Joel's hand. She held it like she wasn't letting go. The Monday after the museum felt different. Owen tightened a bolt beneath a '97 Corolla, but his mind was far from the garage. Each rotation of the wrench felt mechanical, automatic. His thoughts kept slipping to the way Joel had looked on that park bench, her coat dusted with pine needles, Sammy asleep against her side like it was the most natural thing in the world. He hadn't told anyone. Not his boss, not the guys at the shop, not even his sister who usually sniffed out changes in his life like a bloodhound. He didn't know how to say it out loud yet. He barely believed it himself. Joel had texted that morning asking if he and Sammy were free Friday night. She'd mentioned a surprise, something low-key but special. Owen had stared at the message for a full minute before responding with a cautious yes. When Friday came, a different car arrived. Not the sleek SUV from before this one, was a vintage convertible with a driver half Owen's age who offered him sparkling water in glass bottles. Sammy grinned like it was the coolest thing he'd ever seen. They pulled up to a private theater in Lincoln Park, its marquee reading, "Special Screening, Jurassic Park Private Event." Joel was waiting just inside, standing beneath a chandelier that looked like it belonged in a palace. She wore a navy blazer over a white button-down and black trousers, her hair pinned back with something glittering. She looked less like a billionaire and more like a woman hosting a celebration she genuinely wanted to share. Owen leaned in as they walked through the velvet-lined hallway. "You rented out a whole theater." Joel slipped her arm through his. "Just the one screen. Figured Sammy deserved to see dinosaurs on a proper scale." "I'm starting to think you're trying to spoil him." "I'm trying to spoil both of you." Sammy gasped when he saw the concession stand, stacked high with candy, popcorn in gold-striped boxes, and a row of sodas in glass bottles. A staff member handed him a tray and said, "Take anything you want." Owen glanced at Joel. "This is what you meant by low-key." She grinned. "No paparazzi, that's low-key in my world." During the movie, Joel leaned close. "I never watched this as a kid." "You're kidding." "My mom thought it was too violent. She was big on etiquette. Said anything with roaring, blood, or chaos was for people with no vision." Owen raised an eyebrow. "And yet here you are, roaring, blood, and chaos." "I like it better than vision boards." After the credits rolled, and Sammy started mimicking raptor sounds down the aisle, Joel took Owen's hand. "There's something I want to show you." He paused. "More dinosaurs?" Sort of." They loaded into the car again, this time just the three of them. Sammy curled up in the backseat with a blanket Joel had brought, already dozing before they'd left the parking lot. 20 minutes later, the car turned down a quiet street lined with tall oak trees and black wrought iron fences. At the end of the block, it came to a stop before a townhouse that looked like something out of a European magazine, white stone, tall windows, and a copper lantern flickering beside the front door. Joel stepped out and looked at Owen. "Come in with me." "Is this your place?" She looked up at the building. "It was my grandmother's. She left it to me 5 years ago, but I've never lived in it. Too many memories. Until last month, I hadn't even stepped inside in over a year." Owen followed her up the steps, carrying Sammy, who stirred but didn't wake. The interior was warm and quiet, all soft light and polished wood. A faint scent of lavender lingered in the air. She led him to the sitting room, where a fire crackled and 2 wine glasses sat on a tray beside a crystal decanter. "How long have you been planning this?" Owen asked, gently laying Sammy on a nearby chaise and covering him with the blanket. "Since the night we met." He turned. "Joel." "I know," she said quickly. "I know it's fast, but I didn't plan on any of this. I just knew the moment I saw you with your son that you were different." He stayed quiet. She stepped closer. "I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who see me as a brand, a number, a headline. You saw a woman who lost her purse and didn't laugh when she panicked. You didn't ask for anything. You gave, freely." "I didn't do anything special." "You were kind. That's rarer than diamonds in my world." He looked at her, really looked. The firelight flickered across her face, softening everything. He saw the woman beneath the headlines, beneath the legacy. Someone who wasn't asking him to change, wasn't asking him to earn her. "I don't know how to be part of your world," he said finally. "I don't want you to be," she answered. "I want to build a new one, something between mine and yours, something real." He stepped forward. "I've never been with someone who didn't make me feel like I had to prove myself." "Then let me be the first." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, but it wasn't a ring. Inside was a key. What's this? A choice, she said. There's an apartment above the garage. It's smaller, but it's warm, and I had it redone. You and Sammy could stay here whenever you want. No strings, no expectations, just a place for when you need peace. He stared at the key. I'm not asking you to move in, she added. I'm asking if you'll let me be part of your life, for real, not just museum trips and movie nights, grocery shopping, parent-teacher meetings, cold pizza on Sunday mornings. He looked at the key again, then at her. Are you sure? I've never been more. He took the key. Joel stepped into him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and he pulled her close. The kiss was slow, certain, and tasted like the promise of something that didn't have to be perfect to be worth everything. Behind them, Sammy stirred and opened one eye. Are you gonna marry her, Dad? Owen laughed softly and glanced at Joel, who smiled without saying a word. One day, Owen said, brushing his son's hair back, if she'll keep putting up with us. I wouldn't want anything else, Joel murmured. And in that quiet room, with the fire crackling and the city outside falling into sleep, a new beginning settled around them, not built on money or status, but something deeper. Something unshakable. The first snow of the season drifted past the windows of the townhouse like slow-moving confetti. Inside, the scent of cinnamon and something sweet baking in the oven filled the air. Joel stood barefoot in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, her hands dusted with flour as she leaned over the counter, eyebrows furrowed in fierce concentration. Are you sure we didn't forget the eggs? She asked, glancing at Owen, who was elbow deep in a bowl of batter beside her. Yes, he said, licking a bit of dough off his thumb. We've counted them twice. You're just nervous because this is the first thing you've baked without a caterer guiding you. I've never trusted powder that turns into cake, she muttered. You own a skincare company that sells gold-infused moisturizer, but boxed cake mix is where you draw the line. She turned her head. I'm evolving. There was a crash from the living room. Owen looked up. That sounded like the tree. Joel wiped her hands on a towel. I'll check. You finished the batter. She left the kitchen and found Sammy standing beside the toppled tree, ornaments scattered like jewels across the wooden floor. He looked up, eyes wide, a string of tinsel tangled around his arm. I was trying to reach the star, he said. Joel knelt beside him and gently untangled the garland. Did you think climbing the couch was the best way? He bit his lip. The ladder's in the garage. She smiled, brushing glitter from his cheek. Next time, ask for help. Are you mad? No, but I'm glad it happened before we added the glass ones. Owen appeared in the doorway, still holding the mixing spoon. Should I be worried? Just your tree attempting to escape. He nodded. It's been trying to make a break for it since last Christmas. Sammy looked between them. Can we decorate it again tonight? Only if you promise to stay on the ground, Joel said. I promise. We'll make cocoa and put on that movie with the singing snowman, Owen added. Sammy grinned and dashed off toward the stairs to grab a new pair of socks. Joel stood, brushing her palms on her jeans. You're good at this, Owen said, watching her. She looked at him, puzzled. At what? Being here with him, with me. She leaned against the doorway. I wasn't sure I would be. You could have disappeared after that first night, after a week, even after the museum, but you didn't. I didn't want to, she said softly. I didn't expect this to feel so, right, but it does. It scares me sometimes. She stepped closer. It scares me too, but I think that's how I know it's real. He set the spoon down and pulled her in, wrapping his arms around her waist. You want to know something? Always. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. for something to happen that proves this was all too good to last. "It's not going to drop," she said gently, "because we're not pretending." He exhaled and rested his forehead against hers. "You once said you didn't want me in your world. You wanted to build a new one. I think we're doing that." "I think we already have." They stood like that for a while, the scent of vanilla and nutmeg filling the space around them. The faint sound of Sammy singing to himself upstairs drifting down like music through the old house. Later that evening, once the tree was upright again and the lights glowed softly in every corner, Joel emerged from the bedroom holding a slim black folder. Owen raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" She handed it to him. "Something I want you to look at." He opened it slowly. Inside were papers legal-looking, with crisp edges and embossed headers. At the top was his name. He frowned. "What is this?" "An investment agreement," she said. "I've been watching the numbers on your garage. You're running it with almost no resources, outdated tools, and a waiting list that stretches 2 weeks out. You're good, Owen, really good, and I want to help you expand." He stared at her. "You want to go into business with me?" "I want to invest in you, not as some charity move, not because I feel sorry for you, because I believe in what you're doing. You fix things, not just cars, people too." He closed the folder. "I don't need your money." "I'm not offering it because you need it," she said. "I'm offering because you've never once asked, and because I want to build something together. This isn't a gift. This is a partnership. You'd keep full control. I just help you get there faster." He was quiet for a long time. Then slowly, he nodded. "Okay, but only if you let me name the new location." She grinned. "Deal, just don't call it Owen's Pit Stop." He laughed. "No promises." They toasted with cocoa in mismatched mugs, while Sammy draped the last ornament carefully on the lowest branch. Joel leaned against Owen's shoulder, her hair smelling like cinnamon and sugar. "I didn't know this kind of life existed," she said quietly. "It didn't," he replied. "We made it." Months passed in soft, steady rhythms. Joel moved into the townhouse full-time, and Owen's garage expanded with a second location sleek, functional, but still grounded in the grit that made it his. She refused to let her name be attached to anything, insisting this was his venture, not hers. Sammy started calling her Joe instead of Joel, and one afternoon, after a parent-teacher conference, he slipped and called her Mom. She blinked but didn't correct him. Later that night, she cried in the kitchen, and Owen held her without asking why. On a bright spring morning, Owen stood in the backyard beneath the budding cherry blossom tree, ring box in hand, heart hammering harder than any engine he'd ever rebuilt. Joel stepped outside barefoot, holding Sammy's hand. She stopped when she saw him. "You're doing something," she said cautiously. "I am." He dropped to one knee. "Joel, you turned my life upside down. You showed me that love doesn't need to come with conditions, that kindness can be loud, that building something new doesn't mean forgetting the past, it means choosing a future. I want to choose that future with you, every day." He opened the box. Joel's hands flew to her mouth, eyes shining. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Sammy clapped and ran around the tree in circles yelling, "We're getting married." Joel dropped to her knees with him, and they kissed, slow and certain and entirely theirs. They married in the garden that summer, beneath that same cherry blossom tree, petals falling like confetti. Their vows were simple, honest, and spoken without microphones. Owen wore a tie that didn't match his suit. Joel wore a dress with pockets and a flower crown Sammy made himself. They danced barefoot on the patio, surrounded by family, friends, and the sound of something whole settling into place. Later that night, Owen carried Joel upstairs, laughing when she insisted she wasn't that kind of bride. You're exactly that kind of bride, he whispered, kissing her temple. The one I never saw coming, the one I'll never stop choosing. Years later, they'd tell the story to friends over dinner, their son rolling his eyes at how many times he'd heard it. They'd sit on the porch of that same townhouse, watching the city lights blink on, her hand in his. It didn't begin with perfection. It began with a dropped purse and a boy who believed in dinosaurs. But it ended with everything. Love, family, a life built from the ground up. Together, forever.